Hello students, this is the second lecture on Fabry-Perot interferometer. The link for the first lecture on Fabry-Perot interferometer is given in the description box. Before watching this video, I would suggest the students must go through the first lecture on the same topic. So, okay, let's start. From the last lecture, we have got the expression of intensity from the intensity, that is I is equal to T square by 1 minus R square multiplied by 1 plus 4R by 1 minus R square sin square delta by 2, where I is the intensity, T is the transmission coefficient, R is the reflection coefficient and delta is the phase difference. So, for getting the maximum intensity, the value of sin square delta by 2 should be equal to 0. So, if this terms becomes 0, so the maximum intensity I max becomes T square by 1 minus R square, that is what written here, I max is equal to T square by 1 minus R whole square. So, the condition to get maximum intensity is that sin square delta by 2 must be equal to 0, which gives delta is equal to 2n pi, where n varies from 0 to 1, 2, 3 and so on. So, we got the expression for maximum intensity. And condition for minima, the intensity should be minimum when we have this term, and this term must be the larger one when sin square delta by 2 is equal to 1. So, the minimum intensity would be I minima is equal to T square by 1 minus R whole square into 1 plus 4R by 1 minus R square, because sin square delta by 2 is equal to 1, which is the condition for the minima. So, condition for the minima is sin square delta by 2 is equal to 1. So, we get delta is equal to 2n plus 1 into pi. Same as before, n varies from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. So, we get the minimum intensity I minima is equal to T square by 1 minus R square into 1 plus 4R by 1 minus R square. That is all, because the sin square delta by 2 term, that is equal to 1. Simplifying this equation, we can write I minima is equal to T square by 1 plus R square. Now, we know that A plus R plus T is equal to 1. R we know reflection coefficient, T is transmission coefficient and A is the absorption coefficient. If when there is no absorption at the reflecting surface, that is A is equal to 0, then we can write R plus T is equal to 1. So, we have the expression for I max. So, we can write R plus T is equal to 1. So, T is equal to 1 minus R. So, if we put T is equal to 1 minus R square divided by 1 minus R square. So, I max gives the value 1. So, we have I max is equal to 1, and the expression for I minima will be 1 minus R square. In place of T square, we can put 1 minus R whole square divided by 1 plus R square. So, I max by I minima, just the reciprocal of these, because I max is equal to 1. So, I max by I minima is equal to 1 plus R whole square by 1 minus R whole square. Also, if we calculate I by I max, it gives 1 by 1 plus 4R by 1 minus R square sin square delta by 2. Now, we can replace 4R by 1 minus R square by F and simplify the equation as 1 by 1 plus F sin square delta by 2. Now, the fringes that we get, they are circular fringes, and the explanation for this is like that. The condition, in terms of path difference, we have the condition for maxima is 2t cos theta equal to n lambda, and condition for minima is 2t cos theta equal to 2n minus 1 into lambda by 2. For constant t, for a particular n and wavelength, theta is a constant. The locus of points having the same value of theta is a circle, and hence circular fringes are obtained. The bright fringe in the interference patterns is very sharp as the intensity falls rapidly almost to 0 on either side. the sharpness increases with the reflecting power of the silver coating. Now the visibility of the fringes. The visibility of the fringes is defined as V equal to I max minus I min by I max plus I min. This gives the value 2r by 1 plus r square. Thus, the visibility of the fringes depends only on the reflection coefficient of the silver coating and is independent of its transmission coefficient. Now, sharpness of the fringes, which is the measure of half fringe width. The half fringe width of a fringe, it is a graph of I intensity versus phase difference for a particular value of R. The I maximum, the half value of I maxima, the 2 points on either side of maxima where the intensity is half of its maximum value. So, I by I max at half fringe width, we can write I by I max is equal to half. So, we have the equation I by I max is equal to 1 by 1 plus f sine square delta by 2. From there, we can write 1 by 1 plus f sine square delta by 2 is equal to half. So, we get f sine square delta by 2 is equal to 1. So, sine delta by 2 is equal to 1 by root f, that comes sine delta by 2 is equal to 1 minus r by 2 root over of r. Thus, the phase difference delta is equal to 2 sine inverse 1 minus r by 2 root r. For small value of delta, we can write sine delta by 2 is equal to delta by 2. So, the phase difference delta value comes 1 minus r by root r. Thus, smaller is the fringe, half fringe width, sharper is the bright fringe. Now, let us calculate the values of delta for various values of r, that is the various values of reflection coefficient and the corresponding values of I by I max. First, let us take r is equal to 0.25, that is 25% reflectivity. The delta value comes 1.5 and I by I max comes 0.9997. If we increase the r value to 0.5%, 0.5, that is 50%, then the delta value decreases to 0.707 and the I by I max value remains the same. Now, if we go on increasing like this, for r value 0.75, the delta value decreases again. For r value 0.95, that is 95 point, reflectivity is 95%, the delta value decreases to a low value, but the value of I by I max remains the same. So, it is obvious from the above calculation that higher the value of r, lower the value of delta. Thus, sharper is the maxima, but the value of I by I max remains same. And if we plot the variation of I by I max with the phase difference for different values of r, it will look like this. For 25%, we have a wide delta value, and as we go on increasing the reflectivity 25% to 50%, 75% and 95%, we have seen that the delta value decreases to small values and the maxima becomes sharper. And by this interferometer, using this interferometer, we can determine the wavelength of light that is used in the interferometer. The interferometer is adjusted so that the circular fringes are obtained. Let n be the order of fringe at the center, so that 2t is equal to n lambda, because at the center we are considering theta is equal to 0. So, the expression becomes 2t equal to n lambda. Now, the movable plate is moved from we have two plates. If we go to the previous lecture, that you have seen that there are two plates, one of them is kept fixed and the other is movable. So, the movable plate is moved from a known distance, say from x1 to x1, and let n be the number of fringes that disappear at the center. So, thus we can write capital N is into lambda by 2 is equal to x2 minus x1. So, from this expression we can get the value of lambda. Now, comes the application part of Fabry-Perot interferometer. With increasing use of lasers in various fields, the phenomenon of interference is widely used in various measuring and test equipments. The first, interference filters. This provides the selection of narrow band of light wavelengths, say less than or less or equal to 100 Armstrong out of complete spectrum. An interference filter consists of multi-beam interferometer, a thin transparent dielectric sandwiched between two optical, here we have a dielectric between two optical plane parallel glass plates. The inner surface of the glass plates are coated with thin layer of high quality reflecting material. The inner surfaces are coated with high quality reflecting material. Here we have seen here magnesium fluoride is used, MgF2. The path difference between two successive emergent parallel rays for normal incidence can be written as 2 mu t if t be the distance between the glass plates and mu be the refractive index of the medium enclosed inside the glass plates. For monochromatic light, transparent beam shall interfere constructively, that is path difference should be integral multiple of wavelength, that is 2 mu t is equal to n lambda. So, lambda is equal to 2 mu t by n. If the thickness of the film is so adjusted that mu t, the value of mu t is equal to lambda naught, then the transmitted or the filtered wavelengths shall be 2 lambda naught, 2 lambda naught by 3 and so on. It is if t is large, a large number of maxima will be observed in the visible region. About 23,000 maxima are observed if t is equal to 1 centimeter. But if we go on reducing t, we reach a situation in which only 1 or 2 maxima are obtained in the visible region. If we take mu is equal to 1, mu is equal to 1.5 and the thickness is equal to 6 into 10 to the power minus 5 centimeter, there are two maxima, there are only 2 maxima in the visible region corresponding to lambda is equal to 6000 Armstrong for n equal to 3 and lambda is equal to 4500 Armstrong for lambda equal to 4. They are widely separated and one of them can be masked so as to transmit only one wavelength. In this way, it is possible to filter a particular wavelength out of a white light beam. Such a structure is known as interference filter. Modern vacuum deposition technique is used to obtain interference filters. A thin metallic film, usually silver, aluminium, is deposited on a substrate. Metal film deposited on a substrate. The substrate usually glass. Then a thin layer of dielectric material such as cryolite is deposited over this. This structure is again covered by a metallic thin film, and to protect this structure, it is again covered by another glass plate. So, in this way, a Fabry-Perot structure is formed between two glass plates. By varying the thickness of the dielectric film, one can filter out any particular wavelength. The filtered light will have a finite width, that is, it will have a narrow spectrum sharply peaked about one wavelength. The sharpness of the transmitted spectrum is determined by the resolving power of the Fabry-Perot structure and hence by the reflectivity of the surface. The larger the reflectivity, the narrower is the transmittance. Narrower is the transmitted spectrum, but it is not possible to increase the thickness of the metallic film indefinitely, as absorption will reduce the intensity of the transmitted light. To overcome this difficulty, metallic films are replaced by all dielectric structure. These metallic films are replaced by all dielectric structures. In an all dielectric structures, layer of dielectric materials of appropriate refractive indexes are deposited. If on a glass plate, a lambda by 4 thick film of dielectric material of high refractive index than glass, such as titanium oxide of the order of mu 2.8, zinc sulfide which mu has value 2.3 is deposited, the reflectivity of glass plate reduces. Then a thin layer of dielectric material with lower refractive index like cryolite or magnesium fluoride has refractive index 1.38 is deposited. Again a lambda by 4 thick layer of higher refractive index material is deposited. To increase the reflectivity, multi-layer structure of alternate higher and lower refractive index materials are used. Thus, if the incident wave is photochromatic, polychromatic, suppose white light, the reflected light may have a high degree of monochromaticity. It is now common practice to apply anti-reflection coatings to the elements of optical instruments. On camera lenses, such coatings produce a decrease in the haziness caused by stray internally scattered light, as well increase in image brightness. So anti-reflection coating is the another application of this type of interferometer. The for air glass boundary, the reflectivity R is equal to 0.04, that is 4%. So when light passing from air to glass system, a part of light is lost due to reflection at each lens surface. This loss may be eliminated by applying a suitable coating of suitable thickness to the lens surface. The light beams reflected from the two surfaces of the coating then mutually cancel. Here, this is the diagram. This is a glass of refractive index mu g. This is the anti-reflection coating of refractive index mu. The thickness we have to adjust it, and this is AR with refractive index mu naught. So, for single coating, we have designated the term R1. It comes mu naught mu g minus mu 1 square divided by mu naught mu g plus mu 1 square whole square. And if we put R1 is equal to 0, that is no reflection. So, mu naught, the expression condition that comes mu 1 square is equal to mu naught mu g. Generally for normal incidence, we have 2 mu t is equal to 2 mu 1 t is equal to lambda by 2. So, t is equal to lambda by 4 mu 1. The value of t is chosen so that the yellow green portion of the visual spectrum do not allow to be reflected. The coating material should be transparent but also should be insoluble and scratch resistant. The best material known is magnesium fluoride having refractive index 1.38. A single lambda naught by 4 layer of magnesium fluoride will reduce the reflectance of glass from about 4% to a bit more than 1% over visible spectrum. A single layer coating is effective for one particular wavelength which is chosen near the center of the visible spectrum. A wider coverage of the spectrum can be achieved by multiple coatings. For a double layer quarter wavelength anti-reflection coating, mu should be equal to mu 1 mu 2. That gives a value of R2, that is the reflectivity of the second material, mu 2 square mu naught minus mu g mu 1 square by mu 2 square mu naught plus mu g mu 1 square whole square. For R2 to be exactly 0, we got the condition for mu 2 is equal to mu 1 root over of mu g by mu naught. This kind of film is referred to as a double quarter single minimum coating. It should be clear that mu2, the value of mu2 is greater than mu1, and accordingly it is a common practice to designate glass, then high index material, then low index material, and then air. So, it is termed as GHLA. For high index layers, zirconium oxide mu is equal to 2.1, titanium dioxide mu is equal to 2.4, zinc sulfide mu is equal to 2.32 are commonly used, and for L layers, magnesium fluoride, in that case mu is equal to 1.38, and cerium fluoride mu is equal to 1.63 often serves as L layers. Also, triple layer schemes can be designed to satisfy specific requirements for spectral response, incident angle, cost, and so on. These are some problems given to you. If you go through the 2 lectures, then you can solve these problems. You can write the answers in the comment box to verify the answers that I have got. Thank you.